your business alive to clients, prospective customers, and employees, and they do not have to be expensive to be effective. TV8 offers you corporate or industrial video services at surprisingly affordable prices. From script writing to on-location or studio shooting, from post-production to dubbing, whether your business is big or small. Call TV8 and find out what many local businesses have. With TV8, you can afford to put the power of video to work for you.
This is TV8, KCCI-TV, Des Moines.
Democrat Bill Clinton unveils his economic game plan. And a published report says Ross Perot has been investigating President Bush. This is the CBS Evening News. Good evening. Edie Magnus reporting, sitting in tonight for Connie Chung. You have a right to know what I'll do and where I stand. That from Democratic presidential candidate Bill Clinton today, as Clinton unveiled his economic and social agenda for the U.S. Richard Threlkeld has the details.
Good morning. Good morning.
Bill Clinton could be forgiven if he was late for church in Little Rock this morning. He'd been putting the finishing touches on his economic plan, which he revealed today. It's similar to the one he outlined last October, but it reflects some things he's learned while campaigning across the country, namely spending more on America and Americans.
So this is a plan that both reduces the deficit dramatically over the next 4 years, but substantially increases investment, probably the biggest investment program of its kind over 4 years ever offered, at least in modern times.
Clinton plans to invest $50 billion a year in fixing up the nation's infrastructure, reforming welfare, and improving education. He'd provide access to health care for everybody, cut down on medical and insurance costs, but stop short of a federally funded national health care system. He's still supporting a middle-class tax cut, but plans on combining it with a tax credit for families with children to make it less expensive.
It will be much less expensive from the Treasury in the out years and will give us more money to invest in our future.
Clinton also promises to cut the federal deficit in half by cutting government waste and some of the federal payroll and increasing taxes on corporations and the very wealthy. Critics may quarrel with Clinton's arithmetic. It's hard to imagine the country can afford to make major repairs and pay off the federal deficit without a big tax increase, something not mentioned in the Clinton plan. Clinton said he's putting that plan out now to let the country take a look at it before next month's Democratic convention. What he did not say is that he also wanted to get it out on the table now so he can say to Ross Perot, "Here's my idea, Ross. Where's yours?" Edie?
Richard Threlkeld, thanks. A published report today says Ross Perot tried for years to turn up evidence implicating George Bush in unethical conduct. Scott Pelley has a report on that.
Ross Perot's crusade to find missing American POWs in Southeast Asia reportedly led the Texas billionaire to launch a series of private investigations into the conduct of President George Bush. The Washington Post reports today that in the 1980s, Perot came to believe then Vice President Bush had dropped the ball on finding American POWs. Perot apparently started the investigations in an attempt to discredit Mr. Bush. The Post reports that Perot hired law firms to conduct several investigations, which included a probe into real estate deals that Perot suspected could be improper, an inquiry into whether Mr. Bush had suppressed information about POWs, and an investigation into whether Mr. Bush participated in the Iran-Contra scandal. Mr. Bush was never implicated in any wrongdoing. The Post says Perot's investigations came up empty. The president's spokesman, Marlon Fitzwater, told the Post, quote, "It seems to fit a pattern of Perot thinking he can investigate, harass, and intimidate people." Republicans clearly see Perot's history of using private investigations as a prime area of attack.
The way that he has conducted himself on all these private investigations of taking photographs, hiring private eyes, getting involved in personal lives. I've had too many people talk to me about what Ross Perot has done to them personally, individually. This is all going to come out. And when it comes out, the American people will say, that type of person should not be president.
There is no indication that Perot did anything illegal or improper. The investigations were largely just searches of the public record. Here in Dallas at the Perot headquarters, a spokesman says the Republicans are trying to use fear to discredit the Perot campaign. The Republicans believe fear is their best weapon, the spokesman said, and they use it against anyone who dares run against them. Edie?
Scott Pelley, thanks. For the fourth time in 48 hours, U.S. track officials today put off attempts to pick the men who'll run the 400 meters in the Summer Olympics. As James Hattori explains, the reason is an off-track legal battle by the entrant with the best chance to win.
He holds the world's record for running 400 meters, but today Butch Reynolds is at the center of a controversy which threatens the U.S. Olympic men's team in that event. Amateur athletic officials postponed until Tuesday the 400-meter semifinals after the Supreme Court ruled this weekend that Reynolds could compete despite having failed a drug test for steroids, a test which Reynolds says was wrong.
I had to make the stand. The other athletes didn't understand the issue in hand, but they will benefit from the issue in hand.
His fellow runners don't see it that way. They face a possible 2-year disqualification if they run against him in the Olympic trials under a so-called contamination rule.
I think that he is innocent.